Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And today, we're here, we have energy, it's still a little early. By early, I mean it's almost midnight, but still, we're winning.
Sure.
We're here.
I haven't heard the winning thing in a while.
We're here to share with you folks a couple topics that we find interesting. Adam, what are you covering?
This week I'm going to be doing a follow-up to Knights Templar, which I did the last time we were on the air, and I had a little cliffhanger because it was leading into the Freemasons, so I will be covering the Freemasons this episode.
Nice. I'm going to be covering the Tower of London. It was one of the higher voted items on the Patreon poll, so that's what I'm going to do.
Indeed. So we're hoping to have a good episode for you folks. This is also the first time we are recording since the contest, Scaryish, as I was calling it, through all of June, came to an end.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who were very, very diligent in collecting entries each week. We had several people that had a shit ton of entries, and it was hilarious putting them into the spin wheel and just seeing it have so many tiny slices. But we did spin to get our grand prize winner. We haven't reached out. In the past, when we've done contests, I've reached out to let people know, like, hey, just so you know, you won. And then they can, like, arrange it with us so we can get stuff sent to them. I decided that this time I wanted to announce it on the show so they could hear their name be announced, and then we could reach out to them later on in the day.
Nice.
So that is what we're doing right now. So congratulations to the grand prize winner, Chunkster. Congratulations. It's one of our OGs. Chunkster's been around for a while. She collected a bunch of entries in the contest by sharing it, and we appreciate that so much. Congratulations to Chunkster on the first prize. Like we had mentioned on previous episodes, though, we are going to have 3 consolation prizes as well. Those are going to be a mug, which is going to have this new Scaryish design that Robin has been working on. And 3 of those are going out. 1 to Glitch, 1 to Claudia, and 1 to Emily. And I know we had multiple Emilys that entered, so this Emily in particular is Evanescent Whims over there on Instagram. So thank you so much to everyone who entered. Those are our 3 consolation prize winners. As far as the grand prize goes, the collection of prizes Robin will go over, I think she has it in her brain what those things are.
Yeah. So the grand prize is going to be the customized mug. So it's going to have that design with, your name on it or what have you that you want to put on there. And then we have the set of the acrylic charms that we had on Patreon. They're all our cryptids. And then a set of Scaryish pins. We have quite a few Scaryish pins now.
And last but not least, always left out by Robin.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
1 set of RPG dice made by yours truly. And the nice thing about that is I was very worried that someone was going to win the contest and have no interest in the dice. But Chunkster plays D&D.
Nice.
Which I know because Chunkster's been a member of our Discord. So when I saw that, I was like, yes! So yeah, going to be reaching out later today so that we can go ahead and get everything arranged and get the grand prize sent out as soon as possible. And we get to make some dice this weekend, so that'll be fun. Yeah, it's been a really good contest, really fun June, so thank you everyone for that. Let's cover one more thing. We didn't have an episode last week. The plan was to have an episode last week, but I wound up having to drive back to Las Vegas, load up a U-Haul, bring it back out to California.
The day we would have recorded... we had to unpack the truck.
Actually,
right?
The day we would have recorded was the day that I was loading up the truck out in Las Vegas.
Okay, gotcha.
We were thinking about doing a Friday episode and just dropping it late on Saturday, but I had to drive it out here and then unpack the truck. And then it was also Spooky Aunt's birthday. So we had to make sure we were focused on that because I didn't want to be like, oh no, we got the show to do. So yeah, just family stuff got in the way. No big deal. We got this episode for you this week. Next week, we're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. We might have something in store for you guys that we can drop into the feed for that week, though. So keep your fingers crossed. We're going to try and have something a little bit special for you next week. But we'll see. It might not be anything at all, but we're going to try and pull something off. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's how things are. So episode this week should be a good one. At least I'm hoping it is.
I'm hoping it is. We'll see. Well, before we get into our topics, I just want to give a special shout out to those patrons over on Patreon that are some of our biggest supporters. That's going to be Lizardtree, Carl Olav, Ethan, and Shandon. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you guys for being such big supporters of the show. If you guys are new to us, you folks can also check out our Patreon, patreon.com/scaryish-podcast, and you can become one of these top tier supporters too.
Indeed. So head on over there. We would love to see you guys jump into our Patreon. I've been posting some vlog content, which has been pretty fun. I gave everyone a little bit of a break because I posted 2 in like 3 days. So I was like, I'll pump the brakes and wait about like 2 weeks before I post the next one. I'm going to post a little mini topic next, actually.
Oh,
I've been thinking about doing it. Something that someone like we've had suggested multiple times. That's just not long enough for an actual topic, but more importantly is not real. So I was like, this will be an interesting way to like spend 5 minutes just going through this. And I think it'll be fun. I think people will enjoy it. So that's some of the Patreon exclusive content you can get if you go to patreon.com/Scaryish podcast.
I just got a new haircut, so I'm excited to show it on a vlog.
Cool. I didn't plan on having you in the video, but if you just want to sit there and react to all the things I was saying, you've only been in one so far. So
how many have you made?
3.
Oh, one out of 3.
That's
like 33.33%.
It's quite the failing grade, indeed. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this week's topic. So, guess who's back? Back again. Adam's back.
Freemasons back.
Tell a friend. Seriously, though, sharing the show helps. Do tell a friend. As you all know, I am not the biggest fan of covering conspiracy theories, yet here I find myself balls deep in the Freemasons because of our patrons, selecting the Knights Templar as the topic for the last episode that we did. And while the Freemasons are definitely a thing, they are surrounded by so much conspiracy theory, it's kind of fucking crazy. Strap on, spooky friends. We're wrapping this thing up with a look at the Freemasons. So these two topics definitely connect to one another, and I'll cover that just a little bit, but this topic is definitely going to be more focused on Freemasons in general. So similar to how I started last episode, and how I start most conspiracy theory heavy episodes or just potentially controversial topics, I want to put out some disclaimers. I'm going to tell you about what I found in my research. I'm not endorsing any of it. I'm going to tell you a bit about the history of the Freemasons, what they are, when they formed, etc. Then I'm going to tell you about their reach and influence, some of the members that they've had throughout history, because I think that's always a fun thing to go over, and some of the rumors of things they're associated with. But when I do that, I'm also going to tell you about some of the conspiracy theories they're attached to, because those two things kind of run hand in hand. They're very intertwined. No, I'm not going to cover them all. There are a shit ton of conspiracy theories involving the Freemasons. Anyone who's heard of them before probably knows that. If I don't cover one you've heard of, I apologize. I decided to focus on some that kind of fit the narrative that I was following as far as the show goes.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to talk about it in our Discord or on our Facebook.
Yeah, reasonable, friendly discourse is always welcome. Criticism that's unwarranted is not shove it up your ass. I don't want to hear it. Don't at me.
Oh my God.
So, obviously, this could all be bullshit. Normal disclaimer that we put on our episodes. I'm going to be covering conspiracy theories, so obviously those could be total bullshit. This topic, however, I would say, is a bit more sensitive than Knights Templar, specifically because, 1, Freemasons are still around, and 2, Freemasons have often been targeted with pretty dangerous and very familiar rhetoric. By the end of this, I'm guessing most of you will recognize something I'm going to say as like, oh, I've heard that before. I had no idea that it was about Freemasons.
Okay.
Or it was attached to Freemasons. Or those talking points have been recycled that they used to use on Freemasons. And I share a lot of my life with you folks. I think we both do. In the last 6 years of this podcast, we really tell you guys a lot of stuff.
Maybe a little TMI.
Probably too much. But we don't share everything. But I will say this, rest assured, I have seen crazy. I've been face to face with a lot of crazy in my life. I've heard even more crazy in many places. And sometimes people will say something that's crazy and so offensive and so bafflingly fucking stupid that you cannot fathom how they've managed to survive for so long. And some of the craziest, stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life actually overlaps with the research I did for the Freemasons. I just didn't realize it until today. And I don't think the people that said it even realized that it was associated with the Freemasons in some way, shape, or form. It's just something they heard where they're like repeating some horrible part of a small piece of a conspiracy theory that they're not even aware of. So you might hear something that I go over in this episode and say, why does that sound so familiar? It's because crazy groups to this day use some of those same things I'm going to cover. You may have seen it on Twitter at some point, or scrawled into a bathroom wall, or just heard it from someone sitting at a table across from you while you guys are having a beer, because you never know what sort of crazy shit's going to come out of someone's mouth, especially if they've had a beer or two. But enough preamble. Let's get into it. Let's start at the beginning. Some of you may be like me until very recently and have the simple question, what is a Freemason? I always assumed it was just a tradesman. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, they're probably like bricklayers or some shit like that. I had no fucking clue what a Freemason was.
I always get it confused with the Illuminati, like the Freemasons and the Illuminati.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are going to intertwine with the Illuminati in this. So to put it simply, a Freemason or Freemasonry or Masonry is a fraternal organization. So just a group of people, mainly dudes. And they have rules for establishing a chapter. It's less of a frat and more of a guild, although it still feels pretty frat-like. I mean, it's literally a fraternal order. It's said to have originated from a group of actual stonemasons back in the 1200s, late 1200s, around the time that the Knights Templar were starting to fizzle out, which is why there's a lot of overlap between the Freemasons and the Knights Templar.
All right.
Some individuals were members of both organizations, and when the Knights Templar did, have their Order 66 executed, and they were disbanded, well, guess what? If you were a Knights Templar and a Freemason, now you're only a Freemason because the Knights Templar don't exist anymore. So the thing is, you don't have to be an actual Mason or craftsman or any of that to join the Freemasons. You don't have to hold on to cans and have your Thetan level read or have Tom Cruise read your mind or any of that crazy shit either.
What the flip, dude?
Freemasonry requires just a few things. A building for meeting with other Freemasons called the Lodge. It'll be called a lodge. A volume of scripture to be open at said lodge when it's in operation. So for the hours that it's open, it doesn't matter what kind of scripture it is, but it has to have like the book open in the building. All members have to believe in a supreme being. Doesn't specify which. You just have to believe in a higher power.
Like Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Sure. If that's something you actually believe in, then you can check that box and you qualify.
Interesting.
A few more things need to be checked off. No chicks allowed. Shocker, an order from the 1200s doesn't allow chicks.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And the discussion of religion and politics may not take place inside the lodge. So it requires you to believe in a higher power, and you're not fucking allowed to talk about it, which I find very interesting. And that's it. That's what's known as regular Freemasonry. And that is Freemasonry that exists to this day. There is a different type of Freemasonry called Continental Freemasonry, which I'm pretty sure is like a breakfast that you get served at the beginning of a day in a really shitty hotel.
I just think about like John Wick.
Because the Continental.
Yeah.
God, John Wick movies are so goddamn good. But the Continental Freemasonry is the type of Freemasonry that observes those same rules, except they have exceptions where there's ones that they choose to dismiss from their lodge. So they might decide like, you know what, we're going to allow women. Like, we think that's fucking stupid. We're going to allow women. And they're recognized. It's like, okay, cool. You're still Freemasons, but you're Continental Freemasons. You're not, regular Freemasons, but they're still allowed to participate in, I think, all of the field day events except for dodgeball. I made that up. And there's other people that allow politics or religion to be discussed, so it's not like the regular Freemasonry. But they're still just considered Freemasons. There's just like those two sects, essentially. There's more, and there's like a split that happened a long time ago. There's multiple splits and frays and things like that, but I'm not going to get too like book report deep into that sort of history of it. Those are the main two you need to know about if you're thinking about Freemasons as they exist in the world today. And I'm sure you noticed that belief in a supreme being is a requirement, but not a specific deity. And yes, if you're wondering, that does mean all religions can be Freemasons. It seems like atheists are the only ones excluded from that requirement. But again, Continental Freemasons let atheists join the party too if you scratch that requirement off the list. You don't have to believe in a higher power if that's something they choose to omit.
All right.
Then you can still be a Freemason. The lodges themselves are supervised by a Grand Lodge. Sometimes they have a different name depending on your region. And by supervised, it's just making sure you're following the rules, not acting like a bunch of fucking assholes. And starting your own chapter is something I'm not 100% familiar with and what goes into that. But I did see a lot of discussion that once you've joined a chapter, you're basically given access to the information on how you can make your own. So it's like the more you become learned in the Freemasonry, the higher your rank goes, essentially. And then eventually you can split off. And if you move or something like that, there's not a local chapter, you can start one. But again, that's kind of speculation on my part. They have ranks within, so you need to be a certain rank to be able to open your own, I think. The ranks, you might hear that, and I'm going to go over them, and you're going to say, like, oh, these seem kind of Scientology-ish. But I'm going to be fair about this. L. Ron Hubbard founded the Church of Scientology in December of 1953. That is 70 years ago. that is 700 years after the Freemasons were founded. So it'd probably be more fair to say that
he copied the Freemasons.
The Church of Scientology ranks are a bit Freemasonry-ish. And I'm going to run through these ranks real quick. I'm going to explain them a bit before I do. I'm going to start at the bottom, the intro rank. Then I'm going to run all the way to the tippy top. But it's a bit odd. So there's like 3 membership ranks or stages. There's the entered apprentice, which means you're brand new.
Sounds right.
There's the fellow craft, which is kind of a weird thing, but it's like fellowship.
Fellow craft makes me think because they're Masons, Freemasons.
It all has like a feel to it
Yeah.
that sounds like you're an actual, like, you're a craftsman or a tradesman of some kind. And then the third level, the highest rank is Master Mason. From what I can tell, these ranks relate to your knowledge of Freemasonry in general and your dedication to sort of the tenets that your chapter follows. In a lot of cases, those tenets tend to be stuff like community service and like personal betterment and the things that you can do for your fellow Freemasons, like forming lifelong friendships and making sure you're helping and taking care of people. I saw a lot of different chapters when I was looking this up about like, would you like to come join? Here's the things we're looking for in a Freemason.
So I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because all of this sounds fine and dandy.
Well, we're kind of just outlining this. And what it essentially is this is just a big fucking group that's been around for a long time where it's like, hey, you guys want to fucking hang out? You guys want to go somewhere and hang out? And like, we all believe in similar stuff, but we're not going to talk about the things that people get pissed off about. Like, those are the basic rules of being a Freemason.
Seems like it's kind of like a Rotary Club.
Sure, why not? The thing is that they have a bunch more ranks. They're not considered ranks, by the way. They're called degrees, which also sounds kind of Scientology-ish. I don't know. I think they call them power levels in Scientology, but I can't exactly be sure because I haven't researched that too much because I don't want to get sued. But there's actually 32 from like 1, 2, and 3 are the 3 I already told you about, and then there's 4 to 32. And when I say that, you might think like, ooh, I wonder what 32 is. That's probably the highest, right? Not exactly. It's not supposed to be hierarchical. Hierarchical. Yeah, hierarchical.
Oh my
It
God.
splits off in different directions depending on what path you're choosing to go down. So it's not like a linear progression. The best way I can like give you an example of this is like if you're playing an RPG, there's different talent trees.
Okay.
It's not 32 straight talents. It's like, okay, I have 8 talent trees and they all have 4 talents contained within.
Okay.
More Fallout than it would be something else. So
Okay.
that said, let's go through the names of these degrees. And there's like different like trees that these exist in. The main one is called the Scottish Rite, R-I-T-E. And each time you obtain a different degree, there's like a whole ceremony that happens. I didn't try and dig into finding out what these ceremonies are because they keep a lot of these things secret. But rank 4, I'm going to start at 4. I'm going to go to 32. Again, they're listed in chronological order, not necessarily in the order of a hierarchy.
You're going to read all of those?
Sure am, because there's a lot of them, and they
Oh
sound
my
kind of
God.
crazy. So like this, you're thinking like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Well, here it comes. So, I mean, because these just sound weird. I'm not saying they are weird, but number 4, I'm not going to number them after this, so just keep track on your own. Number 4 is called the Secret Master, then the Perfect Master, then the Intimate Secretary, then the Provost and Judge, then the Intendant of the Building, then the Master-Elect of 9, then the Master-Elect of 15, which is weird because that's the 10th rank, then the Sublime Master-Elected, then the Grand Master Architect, then the Master of the 9th Arc, or Arch, then the Grand Elect Mason, then the Knight of the East, or it's called the Knight of the Sword, or it's called the Knight of the Eagle, depending on where you're from. Then the Prince of Jerusalem, then the Knight of the East and West, then the Knight Rose Croix, I think it's Croix because that's how LaCroix is spelled, then the Grand Pontiff, then the Master of the Symbolic Lodge, then the Noahshite / Prussian Knight, then the Knight of the Royal Axe or Prince of Libanus, then the Chief of the Tabernacle, then the Prince of the Tabernacle, then the Knight of the Brazen Serpent, then the Prince of Mercy or the Scottish Trinitarian, depending on where you're from, yet again, then the Knight of the Sun or the Prince Adept, depending on where you're from, then the Knight Commander of the Temple, then the Scottish Knight of St. Andrew, then the Knight Kadosh /
Kadosh.
Knight of the White and Black Eagle, which is just a dope fucking name. Then the Inspector Inquisitor, which is super scary. Then the Master of the Royal Secret, and then the Inspector General.
So you go from Secret Master to Master of the Royal Secret?
It doesn't necessarily mean those are a progression within the same talent tree. Those are just other ranks, or those are other degrees that you can obtain within Freemasonry.
The Inspector Inquisitor sounds like some Star Wars shit.
Inspector Inquisitor sounded Spanish Inquisition to me. But these are the degrees of the Scottish Rite in the southern jurisdiction. Kind of. I found conflicting information because there's like 4 other jurisdictions that have different names for some of the ranks. That's why I was saying like it could be this or this or this. I found at least 5 different jurisdictions that have different names for at least half of these. So if you're from like the North jurisdiction or the South jurisdiction or France or Canada or England or Wales, they could be all called something different. But there's 32 is basically what it is. Once you get to the 3rd rank and you're a Master Mason, you're considered the highest level you can be. And then you can start like getting more accolades under your belt is what it seems like. But again, I'm not a Freemason. I know someone who's a Freemason, and I intend to follow up on this topic a little bit by trying to reach out to them.
Really?
But we'll see what I can pull off.
Okay.
So now that we've gone over that, clearly a super deep talent tree. Sounds like a really good open world game.
Sounds like you have to collect a lot of experience points.
Exactly. And it's been around for a long time. If you're thinking like, that sounds pretty crazy already, Adam. Like, you know what? I get it. It sounds weird. But it's been around for like 800 years, and it's this old boys club. Of course, they're going to have a million fucking nicknames to give themselves and each other. And you don't know where they came from at this point, but it's not shocking to think that people that were in one group, like the Knights Templar, may have just switched over during the decline to get into this new one that seemed to have such a solid structure to it, you know? And that gets us to our first conspiracy theory of the show. That conspiracy theory is that a bunch of Knights Templar joined the Freemasons or were already members of the Freemasons, and they decided to head up to Scotland to take refuge during the Purge in the 1300s. Like when things were going tits up, they're like, let's just go to Scotland. They don't seem to be hunting us up there. And during the time they spent there, like taking, you know, shelter, sanctuary, or whatever you want to call it, it said that these Knights Templar were, you know, super good soldiers who were used to fighting. They decided to help Robert the Bruce win a specific battle, the Battle of Bannockburn, which is apparently a turning point in the First War of Scottish Independence. If you're thinking, why does it sound familiar? Because Robert the Bruce is obviously a main character in the movie Braveheart. He's the guy who supposedly brought the Scottish their freedom from England.
Is he the main character?
No, it's not about Robert the Bruce.
Oh,
it's about the Braveheart. So
is it?
It's about Mel Gibson's character.
Okay.
It's about William Wallace, who's like a real human being.
I've never watched this, guys. I'm so sorry. I have no idea what he's talking about.
She quotes it too, because I quote it a lot. So I don't quote freedom. I quote this other part. I'm actually not quoting Braveheart. I'm quoting Basketball, quoting Braveheart, where she does something cute and I'm like, I love you. Always have. Anyways, Masons and historians both say that conspiracy theory is horseshit. There isn't any evidence to suggest that Knights Templar joined the Freemasons, went up to Scotland, and helped the Scottish independence cause. I do think it's weird that the ranks are called the Scottish Rite, though, so clearly there is some tie to Scotland, but I'm not trying to say that I don't think that they're telling the truth. I'm just saying that I think people that are idiots like me might make that connection and be like, that's all the evidence I need.
Okay.
So the present day goals of being a Mason are service for your community, personal development, and quote unquote, true friendship. So it's like, as an adult, I'm almost 40 years old, right? One of the most common things I've heard people say, since I was probably 25 or so,
is it's hard to make friends
it's hard to make friends when you're an adult. And that's 100% true. It absolutely is very hard to make friends when you're an adult.
All my friends end up being my coworkers.
Yeah. And I think in this case, people are like, hey, if we're of like mind and we want to hang out and do things and become better people and support our community, you know, we should work towards becoming friends and finding true friendship. And I don't think there's anything wrong with these 3 goals. The true friendship thing, seeing the word true in there, I was like, that seems a bit culty to me, but, you know, it has good intentions. Now, I could go back to telling you more about the Freemasons and, like, their history, but I think this is where I'm going to rein in the informative portion. If you're thinking, that sounds interesting, I would like to know more, feel free to hit them up or go and Google them and, you know, see what else you can learn, because there's a whole lot to learn about the Freemasons. What I'm going to cover from here on out are things the Freemasons are associated with, people that were Freemasons specifically, and like rumors and conspiracy theories about them, because those 2 things really do go hand in hand. It can't just be a rumor. It has to be something on a fucking grand scale. First, I want to tell you about some historical individuals who were confirmed Freemasons, not rumored, like out and out Freemasons. People that were just like, I'm a fucking Freemason, deal with it, bitch. So I'm going to go over some in varying order. I didn't try and like build these to a specific spot. But Buzz Aldrin,
Astronaut.
Apollo 11 astronaut.
Yep.
He was a Freemason, second man to walk on the moon. Fucking Neil Armstrong jumped in front of him, dickhead. Davy Crockett, famous dude who died at the Alamo, was a Freemason. Nat King Cole.
No, he wasn't.
Was a Freemason. Mozart was a Freemason.
What?
Mark Twain was a Freemason.
How do you know all this?
Because they say they're Freemasons and they tell you what their rank is. It's like part of their fucking biographies and shit.
Wow.
Steve Wozniak,
No
still
way.
alive, confirmed Freemason. Henry Ford was a Freemason. Winston Churchill was a Freemason.
What about Henry Ford II?
I don't fucking know. No one cares about that dude, obviously. J. Edgar Hoover was a Freemason, the former director of the FBI. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd president of the United States, was a Freemason, and for that matter, so was his distant cousin, Theodore Roosevelt, who I can't remember what number he was, but he was like 1908 to 1912, I think. Benjamin Franklin was a founding member of the First Lodge in the United States of America.
Really?
And George Washington was a master Mason. So I think there's 16 of the 46 presidents that were Freemasons.
Wow.
So clearly people with power were Freemasons,
Was
along
Obama?
with lots of other people. Obama's not a Freemason. So some notable folks, indeed. Plenty of people, too. There's a lot of people out there that are Freemasons, but there's also a lot of people out there that are pretty fucking famous that
What
were
about
Freemasons.
JFK?
I don't think JFK was a Freemason. I saw the list. There was a lot more Freemasons. I can tell you exactly fucking why JFK wasn't a Freemason, in fact. It's going to jump ahead, though. Do you want me to jump ahead or do you want me to save it?
Just save it.
Okay, I'm going to save it.
And then bring it up and tell me why it's connected.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
We're going to get back to it, though, and I'll remember when we get there. But there was a lot more Freemasons near the beginning of the country rather than there are nowadays. So here's the thing about clubs, though. They almost always exclude people. We just talked about how for a very long time they excluded women, they exclude atheists. When they do that, the people that are excluded tend to not like them. And then there are some folks who are able to be included, but choose not to because they don't like the club or they're already part of a different club and that club doesn't like this club. Good example of what I'm talking about, and we're going to get to it right now, of why John F. Kennedy was not a Freemason. In 1738, Pope Clement XII decreed in a papal bull, which we talked about last episode, that no Catholic is allowed to join the Freemasons.
Wow.
John F. Kennedy is a very famous Catholic because I believe he was the first Catholic U.S. president.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the Pope literally came out and said, #fuck the Freemasons. And everyone was like, all right. That shit was on the books in the Catholic Church until 1983. 2 years before I was born.
Wow.
The Pope came out in 1738, was like, fuck the Freemasons. In 1983, the next Pope, not next Pope, but the Pope at the time came out and was like, all right, we're not going to say fuck the Freemasons. What we're going to say is, you can't belong to any organization that, quote, plots against the church, end quote. So if your lodge doesn't plot against the church, I guess it's okay. But that also opens the door for any other organization that might talk shit about Catholicism that you're not allowed to be a part of it. And I'm pretty sure that is still in the books. So it doesn't necessarily make it okay to be a Freemason. It just makes the language vague enough to include other groups in their exclusion. And this sort of thing is not uncommon. There are a lot of folks throughout history who don't fucking like the Freemasons. Like, even to this day.
Really?
I'm going to go through some of these things. Like, the 1600s, there were a bunch of leaflets being printed in the UK, especially in London, saying that anyone who was a Freemason was evil, devil worshippers, they followed the Antichrist, a bunch of other shit. They came from a religious sect within London at the time who, didn't like the fact that their members were part of a different organization that was challenging their teachings, that was preaching tolerance, that was allowing them to be around other religions that weren't exactly the same religion as them. They didn't appreciate it, and they wanted everyone to know the Freemasons are fucking evil. They pulled a bunch of shit from the Bible, a lot of different spots, and they tossed it into this pamphlet to say, like, this shows you anyone who's a Freemason is evil because I interpret it this way. Which is what assholes sort of do with scriptures. They take bits and pieces to try and make it seem like their hate is justified. And that's pretty fucking common even to this day. Like, 1826 in the United States, there's this guy. This is pretty interesting. This is a guy named William Morgan, all right? William moves to Canada. He's like, I'm become a fucking Freemason. And he does. And he gets to rank 3. They bestow upon him Master Mason, which means he knows a lot of shit about Freemasons. Then he says, I'm going to publish a book. and I'm going to tell everyone what their practices and rituals are. I'm going to put this shit on blast. And William had sworn an oath not to do that, because becoming a Freemason means that you swear not to tell everyone what the Freemason rituals are.
I mean, the titles are like Secret Master and Master of the Secret. Or
so whatever. It's like he's been sworn to secrecy. He did the secret handshake. They have a bunch, by the way. They're real. But a local newspaper had gone to William and been like, yo, dog, if you want to publish a book telling us all about them Freemasons, we're going to give you a fuck ton of money. And they gave him an advance because they thought it would sell. And you know what? It probably would have. So he took it. He started writing it, and he's like, I'm going to announce that I'm going to put this book out so people know it's coming and people get excited. The local Freemasons printed an ad in the papers denouncing William Morgan, saying he went back on his word, basically calling him an asshole. And then it escalated. The local newspaper that had given him the advance, all the offices were set on fire, along with the printing press in a separate building that would have been used to print that book. And then September 11th, 1826, William Morgan is arrested for theft and outstanding debt. September 11th is not a good day. The publisher of the newspaper, who had given him the advance, went and bailed him out of jail. As soon as they took the cuffs off and walked him out, they rearrested this dude on the spot for owing $2 to a local tavern. All of his charges were related to owing money to people, which is why apparently he was taking this big cash advance from this newspaper because he needed money. In case you're wondering what's $2 in 1826 translate to, it's about $61 today. So having like a $61 tab getting you arrested, that's what happened to this dude. After they rearrest him, the jailer leaves, and whoever's left behind, which a lot of accounts say was his wife for some reason. Like, I don't know if they were just arresting him at his house, but like the jailer's wife is there. A group of guys go in. They're like, yo, you should let us take him. Like, you should let us take William Morgan. And she does. And they load him into a carriage and they leave town. And 2 days later, apparently he's seen on the border to the United States of America. And they see all these dudes load him onto a boat, row him into the middle of the Niagara River, and throw his ass overboard. This is all supposedly.
Yeah, it sounds like not true, but it sounds also so out of this world that it could be true.
Here's the thing. He's never seen again. Ever. A body washes up a year later and they all assume it's him, winds up being identified positively as a different dude. But that part doesn't make the rounds because it's the 1800s and it's pretty early, so everyone just assumes it was William Morgan. And people are so pissed about this, anti-Mason protests break out all over the U.S. Signs in all the major capitals saying, fuck the Freemasons. Because there's a lot of Freemasons at this point in the United States government. Probably didn't help that the person in the Democratic ticket at the time that was going to run for president was one Andrew Jackson, known Freemason. He's running for president, and a bunch of people are so mad they form, and this is literally the name of it, the Anti-Masonic Party of the United States of America. It was founded in 1828, I think, or 1827.
What does it mean? Their
entire motto is fuck the Freemasons, basically.
Oh my god.
Don't let the Freemasons be in power. And they run a candidate against Andrew Jackson in the 1828 and 1832 elections. Spoiler alert, Andrew Jackson wins both of those fucking elections. So, in case you're wondering, Andrew Jackson's on the $20 bill. He did okay. Masons are on your money, people. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, they're fucking everywhere. That's not the only...
Is that why some of our money is just so weird?
I'm sure some of the symbolism comes from a bunch of bullshit. That like all-knowing eye that I talked about in the Illuminati episode, where it's like, that's not a fucking Illuminati symbol at all. It is used a lot in Freemason lodges. So yeah, there's definitely some connection to Freemason and that eye versus the Illuminati. Well, there's not connections to the Illuminati.
There's different parts in our dollar bills that are weird, like there's spider webs and stuff on it.
You ever seen the thing where you can fold up like the $20 bill? It looks
like a two towers.
That shit's fucking creepy. 100%. I'm gonna keep going on this though. We're not gonna get caught on that.
We should make a video about weird conspiracy theories like that though.
I'm gonna put it as a vlog, lock it behind a fucking paywall. Not really. A lot of the things I'm doing on the paywall side of things on Patreon, I'll probably like after a month make it available to everyone. So if people want to go over and check out patreon.com/Scaryish podcast, you might just see some of our vlogs. I'm going to keep going though. The Anti-Masonic Party was not the only political party that hated the Freemasons. Masonry often becomes tied together with other groups that are being harassed or being undermined or just being persecuted in general because so many people are part of the Freemasons. So when people are looking to inspire hate, they decide, like, we got to hate the Freemasons too. It's not surprising that for a very, very long time, anti-Semitism movements also target Freemasons in most cases. So the Nazi Party, don't know if you fucking heard of them, they literally had been telling their followers for close to a decade before World War II started that the Freemasons were a tool of the Jewish population to control society and a bunch of other fucking crazy shit.
What?
It's like this anti-Zionism movement. If you've ever heard anyone talking about like Zion or Zionists or like Zionism, like that whole thing, like Zionism or Zionists, that's the belief that the Jewish people should establish a homeland because for a very long time they didn't have a capital, you know? Like, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but that's what that is. So the anti-Zionist movement is, fuck them, they're nomads, they don't deserve a capital, they don't deserve Israel, they don't deserve any of that shit.
I've never heard of any of this.
So here's the thing. I've received text messages from people talking about how, like, the reason the conservative movement is so important right now is to put the Zionists in their place, blah, 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 blah. Not realizing, like, oh, these fuckers are quoting, one, the Nazi Party, and two, this anti-Freemason rhetoric that was tied up with the anti-Semitism movement at the exact same time.
Wow. So
you'll often see Zionists and shit like that tied up with Freemasons if people just decide to not bring up anti-Semitism because they're trying not to seem like they're insane.
Yeah.
But the Nazi Party didn't mind doing that. So they talked about, anti-Zionism. They talked about anti-Freemasons. They talked a bunch of shit about how these guys are trying to take over the world. They worship the devil. They're all evil. It's all rhetoric that has been really kicked out there for like the past 200 years. Not just the Nazis, but they were kind of recycling shit to keep angry idiots rabid enough to allow this persecution and then eventual genocide that winds up taking place during World War II. Of the millions of people that died at the hands of the Nazi Party during their tenure, during their occupation of Europe, it's estimated 80,000 to 200,000 of them were Freemasons.
Wow.
Not necessarily Jewish Freemasons, just known Freemasons that were basically plucked because they were known and they were just killed. Like, they just straight up got fucking killed during World War II.
Is it possible that, like, the people that were kind of said, like, well, you're housing Jews or whatever, were Freemasons? And so that's how they kind of caught people.
I have no idea.
People.
You're just wildly speculating at this point. There were a lot of terrified people that were trying to gain favor with the Nazis by turning over anyone they could. So if they didn't know any Jews nearby, they were turning over Freemasons. Like 100%. Okay. And I'm not making this shit up and I'm not speculating on this. These numbers are from official documents that were being kept by the Nazi Party. In particular, a guy named Professor Franz Six, who was literally in charge of the messaging, the rhetoric, and the records of the people that they were exterminating. They literally kept the records of this shit, of all the people they were murdering and what group they applied to show what a good job and what a good thing that they were doing.
That is insane.
That's how fucking crazy those people were.
Wow.
And if you're like a Nazi sympathizer and you're offended by what I'm saying, turn off the show and go walk into fucking traffic. I don't give a shit. So the other conspiracy theories are also fucking buck wild. There's a lot of anti-Freemasonry shit out there. The New World Order, and not the WCW Hulk Hogan version,
okay,
is supposedly, if you've never heard of the New World Order, a secret totalitarian government that runs the world behind the scenes. Like, they control all the world governments.
I thought you were going to tell me more about the Hulk Hogan thing.
No.
But okay.
And depending on how much you buy into the Freemasonry, like, conspiracy theory being involved with the New World Order, which may or may not exist, and it probably fucking doesn't, it is either a bunch of Freemasons are part of the New World Order, or the New World Order was created by the Freemasons and fostered to get to a point where they could slowly put Freemasons in charge of different parts and different pieces of different governments, and then they could form the New World Order. It gets pretty fucking buck wild.
Okay.
Despite the New World Order phrase being used for a very long time, it wasn't actually used as an organization for people to target until like the Cold War era. Like, people used to say New World Order and not mean like this secret organization. It gets picked up in the 1950s by conspiracy theorists during the Second Red Scare. If you want to like really read up on people being giant pieces of shit and just inspiring fear to try and gain political power, read up on the Second Red Scare and the First Red Scare for that matter. In the 1950s, though, they basically start tying together Freemasons, Illuminati, the Jews, the Zionists, all together into one to say, like, these are the people that are trying to take over the world. It's like 10 years had passed since that shit had finally quieted down from Germany. It makes its way over to North America and the US and Canada to convince people that all of their neighbors are essentially communists. Like, they're communists, they're socialists, they're Illuminati, they're Zionists, they're Freemasons, and a host of other different terms that actually don't go together. But, you know, people don't realize that if they're scared, and they just sort of tossed all this shit together to really freak people out. Which is funny, because communism also hates Freemasons.
Wow.
Communist nations made it illegal to practice being a Freemason or have a lodge within their borders. That shit was on the books since the Cold War. Most communist nations still have that on their books.
That's insane.
So people saying, like, oh my God, like, don't be fucking communists. They're all fucking Freemasons. And then the communists are like, you can't be Freemasons. They're all evil. They're hated by the far left and the far right.
Okay.
So it's just fucking crazy.
All right.
Like, and this shit still happens. It's not like that's a long time ago. But if you need something more recent, like in 1980, when Saddam Hussein took over Iraq, he, like, decided to make it a felony to, quote, promote or acclaim Zionist principles, including Freemasonry. Same fucking rhetoric over and over and over. So it's just something that you constantly see. And I know there are people out there listening to this podcast who have spoken with me who have heard, like, the Zionist shit before tossed out there just so someone could let you know how crazy they were. I don't think they even knew how crazy they were when they were saying that shit. But even when you're not on the extreme sides, this shit still happens. The UK, the United Kingdom, had a requirement from 1999 to 2009 that anyone who was a Freemason had to disclose that they were a Freemason publicly before entering into service as a judge or a police officer.
What?
If you were going to become a police officer or a judge, you had to tell the public before so, I'm a Freemason.
Wow.
Someone's fought for this for like 6 or 7 years in the UK Parliament. The only thing I will say about this crazy shit is the reason that it got repealed 10 years after the fact is because the guy who insisted that it was put into place was monitoring every single thing someone who was a public Freemason did and found zero wrongdoing or impropriety. And it was like, this isn't fair for us to be spending so much resources on monitoring one particular group of people. It's like, oh, it seems a little bit prejudicial, does it? And he insisted they repeal it, so they did.
So it could be the long con where it's like, guys, they're
not looking at us anymore. I mean, they did fucking murder a dude earlier in the episode because he was going to give away their secrets.
It's like Hail Hydra type stuff, right?
I mean, Hail Hydra type shit is very similar to, like, what people think Freemasons have done to, like, world governments and stuff like that, the deeper you get into it. And I will say, like, not all the Freemason chapters out there are good. One of the chapters in Italy in 1970 just straight up decided to become evil. Like, they decided we're becoming a criminal organization. They changed their name. They got, like, unrecognized. I don't know what the word is for it. I've heard disfellowshipped from different churches before, but they basically became, like, not part of Freemasons, even though they did everything the same, except they decided to dedicate all their stuff to illegal activity.
They went rogue.
Journalists that were writing about it in Italy at the time, they fucking just straight up murdered them. Any of the bankers that are like, hey, they have their hands in a bunch of banks, they're manipulating the money, they murdered them too.
Oh my God.
They got into money laundering. They took control of a local newspaper that was having trouble with its funds. It was a left-leaning newspaper, and they went and they found its owner. They blackmailed him into basically letting them take it, and then they made him pay them a bunch of money that he couldn't get. So they basically just stole this money from a bank, and I'll tell you what bank it was in a little bit. And then, like, overnight, the newspaper started printing, like, super crazy far-right stuff. So everyone's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
They thought they were just going to convert all these people who are reading this newspaper, but all the people were just like, something is very wrong here. The bank that they took the money from, they took so much money, they nearly bankrupted it. It was the Vatican Bank. It was the bank for the church that they were stealing money from.
Wow.
And they were immediately considered not to be part of the Freemason network anymore, but they didn't really give a fuck. Eventually, they all just basically get arrested and in some cases killed by, like, the local authorities. There was a law in the books that people were not allowed to be part of secret organizations while this was happening, and they just decided, like, we're going to do it and you can kiss our balls. Because it's like there was a lot of old style mafia mentality behind how they were going to do this. and it winds up becoming just a fucking bloodbath. It's insane. I can't believe there's no movie about this shit out there. And if there is, someone let me know about this specifically.
They can't make a movie about it.
Why
it's supposed to be a secret.
It's obviously not a secret when it all blew up in the 1970s in this particular part of the world. Like, that shit is crazy. The last thing I'm going to mention too about Freemasons, because I know my topic went long, but the last thing I'm going to mention, and I'm not going to get deep into it, is that the Freemasons supposedly are heavily involved with something called Bohemian Grove / the Bohemian Club.
That's the place where all the presidents go. Like, what's his name? That one guy who had that one chick.
Oh, yeah, that really helps. Everyone's like, oh, I know exactly. You mean Clinton? I don't think Clinton's part of the Bohemian Club.
Is it one of the
Nixon,
Bushes?
Reagan, I think Herbert Walker Bush. A bunch of like the super wealthy people, they're supposedly part of the Bohemian Club. They go to Bohemian Grove and some other places to hang out. A lot of folks state that during this 2-week retreat where some of the most rich and powerful people in the world go and hang out.
And stuff
No,
like
they
that.
go there to figure out how they're going to control the world. And this is the thing, though. The Bohemian Club is like the exclusive club for these fucking dudes. So if they're a fan of one secret club, secret, not so secret, whatever, like the Freemasons, it stands to reason they're going to be part of another one that's significantly more exclusive, you know? I don't know how much that overlap is or what they're getting up to. What I will say is I'm not researching Bohemian Grove or Bohemian Club. There's not a ton of information that's viable out there to do. On top of that, that gets super deep into conspiracy theory like territory where it's like lizard people type of shit that I am not fucking covering. I'm just not going to do it. I'm already going to catch shit for this one in particular. I'm not going that deep into it. And let's say I find out any of that shit is true. I'm not disappearing just so I can look up some research on a club that I'll never fucking join. So let's stick with Freemasons and wrap this thing up. All in all, Freemasons are definitely real. They're the oldest fraternal order still in operation in the world. They've been around for 800 years or so.
That is so surprising to me.
It's a long fucking time. They've been around a lot longer than the United States of America has been a fucking country. They've been around since before colonialism came to North America, and they were in operation for hundreds of years before Native Americans had to deal with any sort of colonialism or colonization in general. Like, that's how long they've been around. Like,
they got with the times.
They have adapted.
Yeah.
They really have, and it's crazy to think about if you want to think about it. Like, how long, like, if you and your friend started a fucking club, how long do you think it could go? My friend started a club called the Sonic Club.
No.
It got cease and desisted in like a month.
Stop it.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to keep a fucking club going, let alone for 800 years?
Okay, also Nintendo, what the frick is up with that?
It was not Nintendo. It's called the Sonic Club. It was Sega.
Sega doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm just going to put this entire story out there. My friend Lee, we're in 3rd grade. I like Nintendo. He likes Sega. He decided to start a club where we go to Shakey's and eat pizza. There was like 4 or 5 of us, and he called it the Sonic Club. Sonic Club met a few times. He wrote a letter to Sega telling him like, hey, I really love Sonic. I want to let you know I formed a Sonic Club. A couple weeks later, I'm at his house. He gets a letter back from Sega. It's a fucking cease and desist telling him to cease all operations without their like authority. He burst into tears.
Oh, no.
Still one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's just so sad because it's just like, it's a kid. He started a club with his friends. They like the game. They hang out.
This is why Sega is a game developer now, and they're not actually making consoles anymore.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't understand their fans.
It's so sad.
And I'm pretty sure it's because the Freemasons made it happen. I'm trying to tie this back in to end my fucking thing. I will say their secret society that runs the world from behind closed doors is a pretty crazy conspiracy theory. They've been around a long time, so that conspiracy theory has been around a long time, which I think is why it keeps coming back around. I'm going to lean towards probably not. I don't think that's actually the case. I will say, though, if we get 250 patrons, I'll just try and join. You just need like 2 members to vouch for you. You need to be like
you don't know anyone.
A moral, upstanding character.
Oh, you do know
I
someone.
Know one. And you know, I think it'd be really cool to have that big of a network and to try and become a better person and like grow in your skills and abilities. It doesn't sound bad as far as cults go. I think this is one that kind of appeals to me, and I don't think they've ever made anyone drink, you know, fucking Kool-Aid before. And if they have, they've kept it really secret. So why the fuck not, right?
If the Freemasons can get us into Club 33.
I hate you so much. I hate you so much. You always bring shit back to stupid fucking Disney. So I don't know what to say about it. I've given you the information, so you decide for yourself. if you're angry about the Freemasons, if you hate the Freemasons, if you have any of those conspiracy theories, save your hate for someone else. Don't fucking at me. I don't want to hear it. But that, my spooky friends, are the Freemasons.
Thank you. That was fascinating. Absolutely loved it.
No problem. You're welcome. Before we move into Robin's topic, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
All right. Welcome to my portion of this week's episode. I thought I'd lighten it up this week because after Adam's such intense topic and conversation, I thought, let's do ghost stories. That's always fun. And you folks voted for it in the Patreon poll. So I was like, okay, well, we'll do.
So this one was the
thing.
third leading vote getter.
Okay.
Of the 8, right?
Yeah, because it was the top 2 is what we did. And then this is the third one.
You also had half this script written already, so you were just
hell yeah!
You were just waiting to dig this one up and just polish it up, and then you were good to go for an episode.
So this week, I'm going to be covering the Tower of London and its resident ghosts. So it's a little bit of history, a little bit of spooky. I know you guys are probably sick of history. This whole episode is going to be like knowledge nugs, I'm sure. But I've been contemplating it as a topic for years. So I just feel like we've been doing this for almost 6 years, guys. So yeah, it's been years. I just feel like it's such an important part of London's history. I mean, the Tower of London gets talked about so often. In Doctor Who, they go to the Tower of London. In
one of King Henry's wives winds up there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, okay.
I know that because I've seen the play 6 twice, which means I've seen it 12. I don't know if it's multiplication or addition.
What?
It's a math joke. 6 times 2 or 6 plus 2.
Get out of here.
Never mind.
Anyway, I hadn't covered it previously because I thought I would mess something up, and I probably will because there's so much history to this place, and because the history goes back so far, stories have changed over time. People say certain things, and really the true story is this or that or whatnot. I've never been to London. I don't know. But you know what? I am going to cover this, and I think the history of this building and the spirits that haunted are fascinating. And I want to go there one day, so it'll be cool. Anyway.
She wants to go there, but every time we plan for a trip, she wants to go to Japan.
I want to go to Japan.
I don't know if we'll ever make it there, Tower of London. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So the Tower of London is located on the north bank of the River Thames in, of course, London, England. This is the home of some of the crown jewels. It even has like the orb and scepter, when you do
shit. I thought you were just like using that as a euphemism. You're using that literally.
Yes, you didn't know that?
How the fuck would I know what the Tower of London holds aside from ghosts?
Okay, I thought, it's okay. Anyway, you'll learn. This will be interesting. I didn't know you knew nothing about the Tower of London.
I barely know anything.
This will be fun. All right.
And that orb and scepter, that's the thing that they have to hold
during coronation.
Just like Elsa.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Conceal, don't feel.
Yeah, and she's afraid she's going to turn into ice.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah. So this place is just full of a whole bunch of stuff, including history. It's just filled with all this history. And you can check out these cool uniformed guards that they have there that protect all of this history.
Aren't they the ones who aren't allowed to break character?
They're called the Beef Eaters.
What?
So they're called Beef Eaters, apparently. And so they can't like break their
stoic look.
I think these are the ones, but I honestly don't know. Never been. I have no idea. I'm not from there. I didn't look too far into the Beef Eater thing or the guard thing.
How do you not look up how they got the name the Beef Eaters?
But there's also, isn't there like a gin too? Beef Eater gin?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure. Or something like that. There's some liquor booze or something called Beef Eater. There's also the White Tower, the Bloody Tower, the Medieval Palace, and the Beauchamp Tower, just to name a few of the things that are all encompassed in what is the Tower of London.
White Tower has some serious Wheel of Time vibes, so I'm digging it.
So, I've never been to London. Hopefully I can see these things one day. That would definitely be cool. If I make mistakes or if I get a fact wrong, sorry, don't at me. Or you can I don't know, just message me on Instagram or something, but always constructive, never douchey. Okay. I'm not as mean as Adam. When Adam says go fuck yourself,
I don't say go fuck yourself. I say shove it up your ass. I'm pretty sure.
I'm just like, yeah. Okay, anyway. So the tower was built by William the Conqueror in the 11th century. Its original use was to be like a defense point or a fortress.
Was William the Conqueror Longshanks?
I
gotta check my timeline. I think he might be.
Okay, anyway, I don't know who that is. He's
the bad guy of Braveheart.
I've never seen Braveheart, okay?
I don't think that timeline matches with the conspiracy theory I said earlier. I gotta do some Googling. Keep going.
So he wanted something that would secure his status as King of England. And so this place, it played both the role of a fortress and of a royal palace for a time. And it was also the location of some pretty significant deaths or executions in history, obviously, like you were saying.
I thought it was just a place you took people to be executed to. I didn't realize they would keep the fucking crown jewels there too. Like, here's where we killed people. Also, we have some expensive stuff.
I think the crown jewels came later.
Okay.
I think it's become part of this tourist attraction.
William the Conqueror is definitely not Longshanks.
Okay.
The timeline does match for that conspiracy theory. Which is the early 1300s. Sorry, everyone. Had to break in really fast.
I don't know any of these things. I've never watched Braveheart. I know nothing. Anyway, 3 English queens were executed there.
Holy shit, 3?
So Anne Boleyn.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine Howard.
Okay.
And Lady Jane Grey.
Which one's Lady Jane
Don't
Grey?
know. We'll get there. All right.
Okay.
Maybe we won't. I don't remember.
I was going to say, we'll get there if you did the research.
I don't remember if I talked about her. She is one of the ghosts, though, in the Tower of London. I don't know if I went into her ghosts in detail, but anyway, there are legends of murder, stories of treason. It's a lot of history, okay, in this place. Lots of legends that have been told, and it all takes place within the walls of the Tower of London. So there's a legend that the Duke of Gloucester murdered 2 young princes that were locked up in the Bloody Tower. And they were his nephews. So when Edward IV died, his 12-year-old son became Edward V under the eye of this duke. And the duke wanted the crown for himself because why not? This kid's only 12. So he locks Edward and his younger brother Richard in the Tower of London. Their mother, Elizabeth Woodville, took sanctuary at Westminster Abbey.
Okay.
The Duke declares Edward illegitimate because he's now in control and apparently can do whatever he wants. And with the family out of the way, he declares himself King Richard III. After this, the boys were never seen from again. So in 1874, they find a wooden box, and it was uncovered by some workmen. They were doing some work within the tower. They come across this wooden box, and inside this box, they find 2 small human skeletons.
Oh, man.
So they believe that these 2 skeletons are the remains of those princes. Charles II interred these remains at Westminster Abbey. So
at least they got a proper burial.
Yeah. So the spirits of the boys are said to haunt the Bloody Tower. Guards have reported the sounds of 2 children giggling, as well as a sort of bouncing noise while inside the Bloody Tower. There are also reports of what looks like 2 apparitions that walk around while holding hands.
Aww.
Which is so sweet, yet so sad at the same time. It's just so sad that they find these skeletons in this box. It could be that these aren't the princes at all. But even if they aren't, it's literally 2 bodies in a box. Yeah, I was going to say,
it's still 2 more dead bodies.
Yeah. So, like the princes, there are other spirits within the Bloody Tower that have shocked the tower's centuries. Centuries. The guys that walk along the top, you know? So, obviously, they've been shocked. They've been shocked a number of times. They've seen headless women. They've seen ghosts of, you know, different types of women, different types of men. And these entities, they kind of just make these eerie presences known. Like, they just do different creepy things because why not? If you're a ghost and you want to haunt people, be creepy, I guess.
Be creepy. Don't be boring if you're a ghost.
But if you want to be boring, you can do that too. Okay. Don't always have to zhuzh it up. Just
I guess,
chill.
Yeah, if that's your thing as a ghost, go ahead and be boring. You've earned it.
I'm sure many of you have heard of Guy Fawkes. or have watched V for Vendetta, which is inspired by Guy Fawkes.
You've definitely seen the anonymous mask is a Guy Fawkes mask.
Yeah, it's in V for Vendetta. They all wear the Guy Fawkes mask.
And I mean, like the organization known as Anonymous, they wear the Guy Fawkes masks too. People call them anonymous masks incorrectly. It's a Guy Fawkes mask. Oh, it's a Guy Fawkes mask. Yeah, guys, if you're walking around and thinking like, oh, I'm an Anon because I'm wearing this Anon mask, no, you're wearing the Guy Fawkes mask. And let me tell you about Guy Fawkes if you don't know. He was locked up in the Tower of London and tortured and executed for his part in the assassination attempt of King James I at Parliament in 1605. November 5th, 1605.
Yes.
Remember.
The 5th of November.
That's where that comes from, literally.
Yeah, they tried to blow up the Parliament unsuccessfully and were caught on November 5th. And November 5th is now known as Bonfire Night.
Huh, I did not know that.
Which is interesting. Yeah, so again, remember the 5th of November or whatever.
Gunfire, treasonous plot. I can't remember the whole thing anymore.
I don't know. That's the only part I know from probably you telling me.
Something shall never be forgot, which is ironic because I definitely forgot.
It's not, we're Americans, right? That's not a big part of our history.
We're a big part. I mean, we're pretty big fans of blowing shit up, especially when it comes to England. That's all I'm saying.
Fuck? Okay, we just celebrated 4th of July too, so that's hilarious.
It is, okay. I fucking love 4th of July. I know people have no idea what side of the political spectrum I fall on because we always keep that to ourselves because no one's fucking business, but I love the 4th of July just because it's the most obnoxious holiday when you look at it from the perspective of England. Like, we fucking get it, guys. Like, you won the war 250 years ago. You're still blowing shit up to celebrate every year. And, like, it's not just in, like, pockets of the U.S. Like, it is everywhere. The whole night for 4th of July, we just blow shit up to celebrate our freedom. And it's just like, if you're from England and you're like, we're allies now. Like, can you tone it the fuck down just for a minute? It's like, no, dude, we can't. This is just what we do.
It's funny because nobody calls it Independence Day. It's Independence Day.
I mean, I call it Independence Day, but I call it that because of the movie.
Everyone just calls it 4th of July.
I call it ID4.
I think a lot of the kids, like in the younger generation, have no idea why we celebrate 4th of July.
I doubt that. Kids are dumb, but I don't think...
I looked at our cameras like you guys can see me.
Most adults don't know why you celebrate on 4th of July, because it's not about winning the war. It's about declaring the independence. That's when, like, we declared... The Declaration of Independence was official on the 4th of July, 1776. That's not when the fucking war ended. That's when we said, like, we're our own country, suck our dicks. It's our birthday. It's not Victory Day, So it's weird to... There's a lot of people who think that's the case. So, just saying. Most adults don't know why either.
Okay. It's not like I don't know, we didn't celebrate 4th of July real big. We were at an anime convention, so
I was stuck at home working. It sucked.
But yeah, 4th of July is pretty big out here in America. It's said that Guy Fawkes' screams can still be heard from the council chambers of the White/Bloody Tower.
Does he scream freedom?
I guess.
Like Sir William Wallace did in the movie Braveheart.
Jesus. Okay. I'm sorry. You know what? My goal was to bring a light end to this episode. So you know what? It's working. Anyway, Henry VI, going on to the next legend here. Henry VI was imprisoned in the Wakefield Tower, which is one of the other towers.
Okay.
He was murdered at the altar in the king's private chapel in 1471 around midnight. His ghost is said to haunt said tower, appearing at the stroke of midnight.
That makes sense.
Obvi. The Tower of London was also home to a menagerie of different comings and goings. Henry III kept a collection of wild animals at the tower. So people would literally give him animals as gifts, which is not uncommon.
So the ghost of like ocelots and ostriches just wander around the fucking Tower of London.
I'm sure it's not just that type of stuff. But yeah, the gift of exotic animals is not uncommon.
Notice that the only exotic animals I know start with O.
What the frick? I mean, watching Bridgerton, that the queen has freaking zebras or zebras.
We forgot to mention this at the beginning of the episode. We started watching Bridgerton, And like I was adamant, like, I am not watching this shit. And by like halfway through, I'm like, just fuck her, dude. And by the time we finished it, I'm like, I'm glad we have something to watch instead of fucking 50 Shades whenever you're horny. Because like this show is way better than 50 Shades.
Yeah, Bridgerton's amazing. We're like, halfway through season 2, I think, or something like that. Can't wait for season 3. Anyway, so Henry III would be given all these animals as gifts. He would keep them at the tower. He even had an elephant. That doesn't start with an O. Congratulations. Bear baiting became a really popular pastime in 16th and 17th century London. I assume, there's a bear and you toss food at it or something like that. Ew, fuck, gross. Ew, no. It's said that there's the ghost of a bear that appears behind the door of the jewel room in the Tower of London.
That would be terrifying.
A ghost of the bear has also been reported to have appeared in Martin Tower in 1816. And when the sentry saw this bear, he attempted to stab it with a bayonet, only for it to pass straight through this spirit of a bear.
That's one of the few times where I'd be so relieved that something was a ghost. Because if it was a real bear in front of you, you'd be like, I'm about to die.
Yeah, but it's also like, great, now I'm seeing things. Am I insane?
I'd still be relieved because I'm still alive. I don't want to get eaten and turned into bear shit, so.
You don't want to bear bait him?
No, hang on, we can talk about this.
All right, here's one of the big ones. So Anne Boleyn. These days, anytime I hear her name, I think of the musical Six.
Yeah, or many other representations of Anne Boleyn. Like the Tudors or the other Boleyn girl and all that shit.
I've never seen any of those things.
Okay.
The Tudors did pop up on like my Hulu or my Netflix the other day, though, and I didn't think
it's like you've watched Bridgerton. Do you want to watch the Tudors or Pornhub?
Anyway, highly recommend that musical if you guys haven't seen it.
Six is very good.
It's very good. It's super catchy. The music's awesome. And just all the songs are great. Anyway, Henry VIII was married to Catherine of Aragon. I typed Aragorn because I love Lord of the Rings, apparently. But he was married to Catherine of Aragon. When he was wanting to break it off with her, he broke off from the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church.
So basically, this is something I know very well.
From the musical?
No, in general.
Okay.
From history.
Okay.
It's not the herstory, as they call it. Basically what happens is this. He has a wife.
Wants to divorce her.
She doesn't give him a male heir. She gives him female kids. And so he's like, I hate you. And he throws her in the Tower of London. He's like, stay there. And then he's like, hey, I want to get a divorce. And the Catholic Church is like, no, you can't do that. It's against the rules. He's like, well, I want an annulment. And they're like, no, like you have kids. You've consummated the marriage. He's like, then I'll start my own church. And that's where the Church of England came from.
So he becomes the head of this new church, the Church of England. We've come, full circle back to the story. He took Anne Boleyn as his second wife, and she was accused of adultery and was taken prisoner in the Tower of London. You can learn all of this stuff by watching Six, okay? They'd only been married for 3 years before she was taken to the tower. Man. So they were married for 3 years. They take her through what's been known as the Traitor's Gate. The Traitor's Gate is the water gate along the river. So there's a gate along the river when the river used to be like a more trafficked area. Like before we had all these roads and things like that, people used the river as a transport. And so they took her in through this Traitor's Gate. A bunch of prisoners would be brought through this gate to the tower. That's why it's called the Traitor's Gate. But she was beheaded and laid to rest in the Chapel Royal at St. Peter ad Vincula, the parish church of the tower.
Interesting. 3 years. She was only queen for 3 years.
Yeah.
That's super short. It's not quite as short as Lady Jane Grey, also known as the 9 Days Queen, who was only queen from July 10th to July 19th, 1553. I knew that off the top of my head.
He's Googling while I talk. Okay?
I thought it was fascinating. Queen for 9 days, then she dies.
Isn't there a king who was short? Like, there's a king who only was king for like 4 hours or something.
Probably.
Anyway, Adam's gonna look that up while I talk.
Shortest king.
So around 3 centuries later, a soldier was reported to have seen a light burning in the closed chapel. And he climbed to the window to see what it could have been inside. He claims to witness a procession of ghostly knights and ladies, all led by the headless Anne Boleyn. Queen Victoria ordered the bodies of those executed during the Tudor period to be removed from beneath the church and to be identified and appropriately laid to rest. Over 200 corpses were exhumed, but identification obviously was impossible. You know, it's a bunch of bodies. After this exhumation, a patrolling officer reported seeing ghosts in old-fashioned clothing wandering about the church. He believed one of these ghosts to be Anne Boleyn before she vanished. So there's a lot of ghosts hanging out around the Tower of London, you know? It's not just one singular ghost. Even this story of the ghost of Anne Boleyn is surrounded by a number of other ghosts of knights and ladies that are hanging out with her. She's just the notable one, probably because she's walking around without a head.
Yeah, and she's very well known for, like, breaking up the marriage and being the one who's, like, accused of adultery after the fact.
And she's sorry, not sorry about what she...
I hate you.
Guys.
She has a good song.
The song's so good. She and the touring one that we got to see each time, so good. So cute. Love her. Anyway, the next one I'm going to tell you guys about is Margaret Pole. She was the Countess of Salisbury, and she met a similar fate to Anne Boleyn. She was beheaded on the Tower Green west of White Tower in 1541. She, unlike Anne, lived a fairly long life. She was around 70 at the time of her death. So she did get to live a much longer life, do a whole bunch of stuff before being beheaded, which sucks. But the reasoning for her beheading is so dumb too. She was the mother of Cardinal Pole. He was this guy who happened to oppose Henry VIII's new Church of England.
Oh,
so
shit.
Because he opposed the church,
to show how righteous he was and how close to God he was, and
he killed his mother.
How he was going to replace the Catholic Church and the Pope. He killed the mom of some dude who didn't agree with him. Nice.
According to eyewitnesses, the executioner on the day of her beheading was a quote-unquote wretched and blundering youth. So I guess he was unable to perform the execution cleanly with his axe. So instead, he hacked at her head and shoulders.
Nearly headless.
How can you be nearly headless? One site stated that before he hacked at her, she refused to kneel. So the executioner had to chase her down first. So he chased her down and then hacked her up. How messed up is that?
What a way to go out, though. Like, you know you're going to get executed. Like, hey, Neil, you're like, get fucked. Like, swing at me standing.
It's just like, she's going to take a page out of Adam's book and just be like, shove it up your ass.
Shove it up your ass.
Anyway, her screams are said to echo through the towers today. Like, if I were beheaded because I was the mother of someone, not even me, my freaking kid, I'd haunt the tower too.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Especially if the stupid dude was like, don't know how to do my job, guess I'm just gonna make you nearly headless.
If I got hacked at and I didn't die, I'd be like, is it your first fucking day? You're letting first day executioner dude kill me? Like, Jesus Christ, you're going to run a church? What the hell is going on?
It's said that you might see the reenactment of her beheading on May 27th, the anniversary of her execution. So if you guys are in the area and, you know.
Into seeing recreations of executions.
No, like the spirit, like the ghosts.
I get it.
Recreate
okay, I gotcha,
you know. I don't know. Maybe they do recreate it. I don't think so, though. I don't think that's something that I would go to the Tower of London to watch. They just have watermelons up there and just chopping them up. It's May. It's almost summer. Handing out watermelon.
Sure it's watermelon season in England.
Anyway, so continuing on, there's obviously many tales around the Tower of London, but there's a tale from 1240. A monk encountered Thomas Becket, Archbishop of Canterbury. What makes this encounter strange is that he was brutally murdered in Canterbury Cathedral in 1170.
That does make it strange, yeah.
Yeah, so And if you know what, you should just post stupid cuts, like things that
I post cut material on Patreon all the time. I just show you the ones that you might get mad about.
Oh my god!
And she makes me take them down, by the way.
Anyway, you're such a dude. Ugh. Becket was appointed by King Henry II. And then when political climate started getting kind of hot, King Henry felt betrayal from Becket and put a hit out on him. Not literally a hit out on him. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if he paid these people to do it, but he had 4 knights track him down and murder him. How much the knights got paid, I don't know. But it happened. So these knights tracked down Becket, murder him. There's a legend that he began haunting the Tower of London because of it. And it started during the reign of his grandson, I think, Henry III. And it said that Henry III wanted to erect an inner wall for the compound of the tower. And Becket's ghost kept showing up during construction and knocking it down with a massive cross.
Wow.
So every time they'd build it, he'd show up again and knock it down. Supposedly, to appease this ghost, a chapel was built in his honor. His ghost was said to never appear again. So, in the time of photographic evidence, a tourist could capture, what looks like a mysterious hand with a lacy cuff. Someone captured that on film, like an old-timey lacy cuff.
I assume we'll have this picture on our Instagram?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they capture this in a photograph and report it as like a ghostly monk that they saw. But I don't have that picture. I didn't see the picture. You could say anything. You could see like something blowing in the breeze and say it looked like something. When I hear
lacy cuff, I don't think monk.
I don't think monk either. I think old-fashioned pirate clothes.
Yeah. When I think monk, I think burlap sack and a rope as a belt.
Facts. Like the brown friar type stuff. I don't know how much of the story of this ghost knocking down the wall is possible. Like it could have just been like a hoax type thing where someone showed up dressed as this bro and was like, fuck your wall.
Are you starting to convert to skepticism now? Because you usually just buy into this stuff.
It just doesn't make any sense that a ghost would show up. I don't know the rules of the afterlife, but I don't think a ghost is strong enough to break down a rock wall.
I know you've never seen the movie Ghosts, but a lot of their ability to touch our world is based off of emotion. And if you're pissed and petty, I feel, and like, walls are delicate if they're still being built. You can knock it. You can be like, fuck your wall. You could find a point of weakness.
I feel like Margaret Pole would have more energy and more emotion about breaking shit.
I mean, she could, but she was probably just, over it. Like, fuck it.
Okay.
She's 70. It's going to happen. And she probably got in a few good one-liners on her way out.
When looking at this Becket one, I'm thinking of like a corn maze hoax. Somebody wanted to scare the king somehow. And they kept coming back to scare him even more. But who knows? I don't know. It could be real, could be not. I don't know. And then there is the hauntings of this monk further. I don't know how much of this is possibly the spirit of a monk, but the sounds of sandals slapping against stone floors of the tower are said to be the monk.
Is that what's being heard?
I just imagine, I don't want to use my hands because it's not going to sound the same. If anyone's ever seen someone walking around in flip-flops, that's what I'm imagining. Yeah, no, that's not even, neither of those sounds sound like slippers.
I was trying not to make sex sounds.
It's just imagine the sound of that slipper hitting a stone floor. It's pretty distinct hearing the slipper slap.
I hate it when you call flip-flops slippers.
In Hawaii, we call them slippers, okay? No one fucking calls them slippers.
What do you call slippers then?
Flip-flops.
Slip-slops?
No one uses slippers. It's hot in Hawaii. Okay. Why are you walking around your house?
So you just took the name of something you don't use and applied it to something that already had a fucking name. Okay, you know what? Here's the noise that you're hearing in the Tower of London.
Anyway, whatever. It could be anything. The sound of this slipper slapping could be it could be anything, okay? Food for thought. Anyway. You guys probably are at this point are thinking like, it's all just creepy ancient ghosts, but that's not necessarily the case. So during World War II, a guard saw a group of individuals in old-fashioned clothes. I assume old-fashioned uniforms, okay? I assume old-fashioned to us, probably more recent to them. But the group they saw was approaching the main gate of the Tower of London, and they had a stretcher, which is not ancient. Stretchers are not something that they had back then. And on this stretcher was a decapitated body. And so they see this group of people dressed in uniform carrying in a stretcher with a decapitated body on top. And this apparition begins to fade just as they're about to come upon the onlookers. So as they get closer and closer, it fades away. As someone who believes in creepy things, I believe in ghosts, weird stuff that happens. I hope I never see one. But I think it's more than possible that there are armies of spirits out there.
Armies, huh?
Because of war. Because of results of war. We've covered the ghosts of Gettysburg. And that's just one battleground, you know? There has to be. It's a very
bloody battle.
Like, imagine what it must be like at a place like the beaches of Normandy.
Yeah.
It's gotta be haunted as fuck. These days, the Tower of London is obviously a tourist destination and receives about 2 to 3 million people a year, which is a lot of people. You can take, obviously it's a lot of people. I don't know why I have to add that it's a lot of people. But you can take ghost tours. You can see the crown jewels. You can see the guards that eat beef. I've never been to London, but I hope to one day. I want to go see King's Cross Station. I want to go see all the stupid Harry Potter stops.
I want to see Parliament. I'd like to see Big Ben, Buckingham Palace. It's a lot of places.
There's a lot of places. Maybe one day. But yeah, that's the story of the Tower of London. There's a lot more. You guys can look up more if you want to.
You can do a second part of the topic.
Maybe or I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys so much. If you've gotten this far, comment with the red phone booth emoji on our post if you guys have gotten this far.
Interesting.
There is one.
I get that. I'm just saying it's an interesting request.
Thanks.
It only represents your half of the episode, but that's cool. I don't know what they could comment on for mine. So, right on. Good stuff, Robin. That's a lot of ghosts in one single place. But we talk about it all the time. Like, England has such history and there's been so many conflicts there. It's like, it's a very small island that's, covered in dead bodies. And, that just means that you're going to have ghosts for centuries. So they're all just congregating in this super famous place where so many people have gone to die, apparently.
Where else do they go? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, that's everything we have for this particular episode. So we hope you all enjoyed it. If you have a story you'd like to share with us, please email storytime@scaryish.com or go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form. It comes directly to us. Or you can hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scariyishpodcast. Twitter is @scariyishpod. And Instagram is @scariyishpodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, I know you already mentioned it earlier, but let them know one more time how they can do so.
You can go to patreon.com/scariyishpodcast. Those are monthly donations with tiers starting at $1. And obviously we're working on vlogs and doing a bunch of stuff. I'm about to mail out the summer Patreon rewards for Badge of Honor tiers and up. If you're not into the monthly donation type thing, you can also go to ko-fi.com/scariyishpodcast, and those are one-time donations. And all your donations go to helping us, keep the lights on.
Indeed. Seriously. No joke. But yeah, that's everything we have for this particular episode. We hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for hanging out for this extra long episode. And I guess I'll turn it over to Robin to sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.